Hello, it's week 4 of Emets Anonymous, and this week's topic is the last time we ever threw up. I've only thrown up twice. I had episodes in my life twice where I had ever thrown up. Once was when I was in kindergarten, probably in 1993, and I got the stomach flu. And the other time was about 15 months ago, I'm thinking. But basically, on Christmas of 2010 was the last time I ever got sick. I got sick from other people I worked with. I'm guessing it was the norovirus based on how rapidly it spread through lots of people who worked there and based on the symptoms and the incubation period. But yeah, it all started on Christmas Day. Well, actually early Christmas morning, but on Christmas Eve I had spent the most of the night with family, like mostly my husband's family and the relatives, at a Christmas party, having a good time, eating pastries and fudge and whatever. And then I got home, and my husband was tired, so we went to sleep. And I decided to watch the first season of Glee, which my sister had given me on DVD. So I was sitting there, and I watched a couple episodes of Glee. And then, midway through one of the episodes, I started to feel kind of nauseous. And I wasn't sure if this nausea was due to sickness or just due to my regular anxiety that I feel each day. So I just sort of was like, okay, I'm just experiencing a panic attack probably. I'm probably just feeling anxious sickness. So I'm just gonna sit and watch more Glee until the feeling passes, which it normally should if it's just anxiety. But it did not pass. It kind of got worse. So I was like, okay, I don't think I can sit here and watch Glee anymore because I feel really nauseous. I think I should lay down. And so I laid down, and the nausea was kind of like slowly building, and I was starting to feel that like churny feeling in my abdominal region. And so I started to panic even more because I was like, oh crap, this probably isn't anxiety nausea. This might be me actually getting sick, but I'm not sure yet. So I did my normal rituals that I do when I feel sick, which what I do is I lay in an upright position if I'm in bed, and I start to compulsively chew gum whenever I feel nauseous, normally Orbit peppermint gum. And then I usually have a few sips of bottled water. I have these things next to me because I feel nauseous every day, so what I do is chew gum and sip little water, drinks of water, hoping it'd help. But this time it didn't help. And I was starting to feel more nauseous, and I started to feel the feelings you get before you have, pardon me if this is like too gross for you, but before I have diarrhea. And I knew that I was gonna have diarrhea, and it felt kind of nauseous, and I woke my husband up, and I was like freaking out. I'm like, I think I'm getting sick. I don't want this to happen, but I think I'm getting sick. And I drank water and chewed my gum, and it didn't make the nausea go away, and it didn't ride its own wave like it does with anxiety. And he's like, calm down. If you're sick, you're gonna be sick. Just like freaking out's not gonna help. It's just gonna make things worse. So I just sort of laid there trying to suppress my nausea for a very long time. And I laid there and suppressed my nausea for about probably an hour or 2 hours, and probably more like an hour. And the feelings of impending diarrhea were getting stronger, so I had to run to the bathroom. And it happened. But after it happened, I started to feel even more sick. I felt like really cold, shaky, even more nauseous, chills. I couldn't even fully see anymore. Like I was starting to my vision was starting to black out because I was that nauseous. And I thought that if I was sick and I had diarrhea, that it would make me feel better, but it didn't. I felt worse. I felt extremely nauseous, and I knew at that point I was like, okay, this is not anxiety nausea. I'm sick with something. I just had diarrhea. I hope that I'm not going to throw up. And my husband was awake now, and he knows about my phobia, and he knows that I overreact to things, especially if I'm sick, I become a baby. So he was there, he was like, okay, just calm down. If you're gonna be sick, you're gonna be sick. And after I had, probably 2 episodes of diarrhea, I did not feel any better. I felt worse. I lost my sense of balance and gravity because I was so nauseous. I couldn't really see things clearly because I was starting to black out. I couldn't really form, conscious I couldn't really maintain conscious control of my thoughts anymore, because when you're so nauseous, like, you can only think like one or two thoughts at a time, which is basically like, oh my god, I feel so sick, I don't want to feel sick anymore, I feel really, really gross. But when you have, like, or at least with me, when I have anxiety, nausea, I'm just sort of like, I can still control, like, I can still maintain control of my thoughts and, like, still function in a way, but I was at the point where, like, I was so nauseous and I knew something was up. So after I had a couple bouts of diarrhea, I didn't feel any better. I was laying on the floor, kind of blacking out, and then I felt increasingly more nauseous, and I had never felt that sick in my life that I can recall. And I was crying. Well, I wasn't crying. I was too nauseous to cry. I was sort of freaking out to my husband. I'm like, I'm getting sick, and I don't want to throw up, but I think it's gonna happen, and wah. And he was like, if it happens, just let it out. Holding it back is not gonna make anything worse. It's probably just gonna exacerbate your sickness, which I'm not sure is true. But I sat there, wallowing, suffering in my nausea, anticipating that I was going to throw up at some point, really scared of it. And I started to feel like that churny feeling in my stomach, and I was starting to feel that like gaggy feeling. And that was new to me because I don't consciously remember what it's like to throw up. And my husband was beside me, and I was like, grab me a plastic bag just in case. And he grabbed me a plastic bag, and I could feel the contents of my stomach coming up. And I tried to suppress it, because when I feel nauseous or I'm having a panic attack and I fear that I'm going to throw up, I, chew gum, drink water, and I take two fingers and press it at the base of my throat and press it down, thinking that that will keep the vomit from coming up if I do vomit, which is probably not true, but it helps reduce my anxiety and make me have some false sense of control that it's going to keep me from throwing up. Yeah, but I did that, and I felt the reflex coming in. It was coming up, and I was trying to hold it back. But once the, like, thing, the switch or whatever that happens in your brain that makes you, like, trigger the nerve to make you throw up, like, holding it there, like, trying to refuse yourself, like, not let yourself gag is kind of vain, because it's going to happen eventually. And I was feeling so nauseous to the point I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to let it happen. And my husband was beside me, and he was like, okay, just let it out. Holding it back is just gonna make it last longer. So I let it out. It happened all on its own. Prior to that, I didn't know what throwing up felt like, so I felt like I had to, like, make it happen, but in reality, it's more like a reflex. It just, like, happened. I didn't have to, like, give any effort to let it happen. But yeah, it was gross. My husband told me to just let it all out, so I did. And that was it, and I felt immediately better after I threw up. Like, my sense of gravity came back to me. I could start, like, thinking more conscious thoughts again. I didn't feel nearly as bad. I remember after that point, like, immediately afterward, I'm like, I guess that was really gross. But it was not nearly as bad as my emetophobic mind would make it out to be. Probably the worst parts of it, I agree, and probably other emetophobics think this, is the nausea and the anticipation of knowing it was going to happen. And it's just that not knowing that kills you. And yeah, so it happened, and after it happened that first time, it was about 2 minutes before it happened a second time, and then after that, I didn't throw up to this day. I still had other symptoms of the norovirus, such as diarrhea. Sorry if that grosses you out. I still had that for, like, probably 36 hours after I started to get sick, but I only threw up twice during the illness. And yeah, it was really gross. It's not as bad as our minds make it out to be. It's an irrational fear, but I think it was just scary to me because throwing up to me is just so foreign. Like, I don't know what it... Well, I guess I do know how it feels to throw up now that it happened, like, 15 months ago, but I feel like as an emetophobic, like, vomiting's not a normal part of life. It's just something that you kind of, like, at least for me, I feel like it's not a normal part of my life. It doesn't happen often. And it doesn't really happen that often to people in my family either. I don't know why that is, but I'm the only one in my family who's, like, terrified of it. But yeah, that was the last time I threw up, and I hope it's another, like, 18 years before I have to throw up again. Yeah, I guess that's it. I to Cassie and Lauren. I'm glad that we're doing this channel. It's I find it pretty therapeutic. It helps to be aware of things you struggle with and have a community of people that you can talk to and that you can interact with and voice opinions and thoughts on. Because, like, if you're suffering with this alone, which most of us are, and you just deal with it each day, and you don't talk to anybody about it, I don't know if that really makes things better. I guess you just sort of feel more alone and displaced, or at least I did. But at least now I feel like I'm sort of trying to consciously unravel certain aspects of how this fear came to be and how we view it, and maybe together we can somehow, like, find a way to beat it. I don't know. I guess that's more, leave that more to a therapist if you guys can, if you guys plan on seeing therapists or already see therapists or whatever. But, yeah, I hope we can beat this someday. I appreciate you all, thank you all for watching, and, I guess that's it for this week, and we're still deciding for a topic for next week. I know that we were thinking of interviewing someone in our family about our phobia, but the only person I can interview, which is my husband, does not like cameras, and he's kind of not really complying with it, so... yeah, but anyways, you guys have a great weekend. Thank you for watching my video, and I'll see you guys next week.